So you've survived your second Cleopatra HSC style questions, and you've done not a bad job on them. I think that the questions were pretty good. I think that the second question was challenging, and we'll talk about why and how you can improve on that. So the first question was, describe how Cleopatra fulfilled the role of Ptolemaic queen. I thought it was a pretty good question, and I'd be really happy if you got that. Have a look at the marking criteria. You see, to get in that 9 and 10 range, you have to provide a comprehensive and accurate description. So comprehensive means that you get all the ways that she fulfilled the role of a Ptolemaic queen, accurate, that your information is correct, and relevant. So this is one way that you can really show and differentiate yourself from the bunch and get you from a 9 to a 10 rather than just 7 and 8. It's the stuff really relevant. See, in B, it just says, it says relevant to the question, but really what you want to do is you want to make sure that it's relevant and comprehensive, that you've covered all the pieces. Comprehensive also means like 3 pages. 2.5 maybe, but they're not going to give you 10 or 9 unless you've got 2.5 pages. So your responses, they were pretty good. What you needed to do was more outline what the actual role was of a Ptolemaic queen, and then it was easy. So you go, okay, this is the role and this is what Cleopatra did, and I'll go through what that is. So basically what it is that Ptolemaic queens take a full and active part in co-ruling with their male relatives, whether that's their brother or Cleopatra with her son. This is a way that differentiates them from, say, other women in the ancient world. Now, a lot of you talked about that the role of the Ptolemaic queen was to be educated. Without a doubt, but that should have been like a paragraph and a side. This is not even her role, but it's almost like her background and her education equips her. So it's like you prepared a question on education, and so a lot of you did that. And yes, I believe every one of you told me that she spoke 9 languages. So, which is okay, but like you needed to do the other bits as well. So one of her things as a co-ruler, she needs to marry. She needs to have co-marriage. So she marries Ptolemy the 13th and the 14th. She has a religious role. She represents herself as Isis and Aphrodite. Yes, a lot of you said that, which was really great, and then used the examples of either the statutory or the archaeological evidence you could have used with her on tomb paintings, or, you know, the sandstone reliefs we have. They're active rulers. Oh, I haven't put the date in. She dealt with the crises and used the when there was famine in Alexandria early in her rule between Caesar and Mark Antony to illustrate that. You know, Ptolemaic queens receive envoys. They're capable heads of state. So you can talk about her alliance with Rome, the fact that she dealt with Caesar. She was able to weave her way through Roman civil war. And then, of course, how she extended the empire under Antony. Ptolemaic queens are ruthless and murderous. Talk about how she killed her brothers and you know, that they met difficult or met untoward circumstances that the sources talk about, and of course she kills us in a way. You could have even linked her to Cleopatra III and said that this was the role model she had, that Cleopatra III was this exceptional queen that extended the empire, and that she came through under that as well. Okay, so question B. This I think was quite difficult, but also provided you with a structure. So you have to deal with the quote. So what is it in this quote that we're going to be talking about? So the big thing was, how important is Cleopatra's marriage to Mark Antony? And if you look at the quote, gives you some things to talk about. 1, the acknowledgement of Caesarion. 2, the Cleopatra's and Antony's children, and that's really about donations of Alexandria and the land that they got, and the fact that he was to be buried at Cleopatra's side, which meant that he no longer went through the Roman burial customs, and then he's completely given up all his Romanness, which allowed Octavian to turn this civil war into a foreign war. Okay, if you have a look at the marking criteria again, If you don't deal with the quote, so where is it? Supports response with accurate information from the quotation provided and other relevant sources, you can't get in that 10 and above. You can't get into the B range unless you engage directly in the quote. See in the C, it says may refer to the quotation provided. So you really have to do that. Okay, let's have a look at what she says, what you needed to do. So everyone had a bit of a go at it, and I was pretty pleased. And actually, because you're all Octavian Augustus, this should have been a easy question for you to really talk about and to integrate the use of the sources. Remember, we really only looked at Cassius Dio in detail when we looked at Cleopatra, so you should have been able to use that as a great source for talking about why Octavian was able to do it. So again, you have to address the quotation to get in the top two bands. The key idea that you have to argue for or against is how important the marriage is. Not for or against, but you've got to state how important it was and make a judgment. It's uber important because to me, it's like the final straw. So he could deal with Cleo, and some of you said in the beginning that, he'd always had his eyes on Egypt. But once Antony marries her, that's it. The die is cast. He can't go back. It gives Octavian cover and allows him to turn the conflict into a foreign war. So, the argument. Octavian was always interested in Egypt. Egypt provided riches. Caesar and had seen the promise of Egypt, as had Antony. Antony used it to have the Parthian expedition. So Egypt was always going to be something that was on Octavian's mind. And Cleopatra's a threat because of Caesarion, but it's okay because he's illegitimate. No one's acknowledging him at all. So if Antony's having an affair with Cleopatra, it's okay, but once it's official with his wife, the game changes. What happens is that Octavian's now able to take over and use that as cover. So what does it mean? It means the alliance between Octavian and Antony is done. Once he marries Cleopatra, he cuts the tie with Octavia. Now she's divorced. She's scorned. She's the absolute epitome of the Roman noble wife, and now she's scorned. So this marks a clear a demarcation that Antony's given up his Romanness. It's what becomes with the marriage. So it's also the direct threats to Octavian and therefore to Rome. Caesarion's acknowledgement again means it's a threat to Rome because Antony with the marriage legitimizes it, and that's actually in the quote. So you can talk about that. The acknowledgement of the children, the donations of Alexandria, he's giving away the Roman Empire. So you link that again, that Cleopatra is now threatening the Roman Empire because her children are acknowledged as part of this and they're given pieces of the Roman Empire. So now he's able to turn this into a foreign war. And finally, the burial. As I said before, he's no longer Roman, but in fact, he's able to turn this into a foreign war. So can you see here, I've said it's crucial, and then I'm explaining each piece and taking the pieces out of the quote. So make sure that if you get a quote that you look at it and think, what are the ideas that they want me to pull out? What can I use? Is this true? Is this not? All right. Well, not too bad, but some things to work on.